Então, pessoal, a gente está aqui com o Flover Rodríguez, nessa nossa primeira edição da palestra com a AAPG USP. Flover Rodríguez, ele é geólogo formado pela Universidade Industrial de Santander, na Colômbia. Ele possui mais de 7 anos de experiência no mercado, entre eles 4 anos dedicado ao Serviço Geológico Colombiano, e atualmente é diretor executivo da Associação Colombiana de Geólogos e Geofísicos de Petróleo, ACGGP. Há 9 anos ele é filiado junto à APG e atualmente ocupa o cargo de diretor educacional da AAPG Latin America and the Caribbean Region. Então a gente vai poder começar a nossa palestra com ele. Primeiro eu gostaria de ver com vocês se está tudo bem o áudio. Eu vou verificar aqui. Vocês estão ouvindo bem o áudio? Podem responder nos comentários do YouTube mesmo. Bom, eu vi aqui já no meu celular que está tudo bem. So you can start now the presentation, Flover. Feel free to share your screen.
Thank you very much, Felipe. Bom dia. That's the only word that I can say in Portuguese. I hope to learn someday this beautiful language. I have a lot of friends there, so I will do my best to learn some Portuguese. Thank you very much for this invitation. I'm glad and I'm honored to be with you. It's a pleasure to share in this occasion with the student chapter and with any people that really have interest in this kind of topics. We are going to talk about maybe an issue that it's very important to us as a geologist, but an issue that we usually don't give the importance and don't pay attention during our work. So welcome to this event, this talk. I really hope that you enjoy this, and please feel free to ask, to comment any that you want to share with us this afternoon. So I'm going to share my screen. Please give me just 1 second. Felipe, now are you seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes. Oh, wait a minute.
Okay.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, thank you. So the topic that I want to introduce with all of you, it's about how geology as a natural science can have some different perspective that we can evaluate, that we can discuss, that we can just take a look and show the importance that they have in our science. So what we're going to see in the next minutes, it's focusing in the importance of the communication and the communicative skills to our work as a geologist, not only in the oil and gas industry, where it is a very important topic, but also in the risk planning, in the risk assessment, in the territory planning, and so many other topics from geology that could be of interest of us. So thank you very much to the student chapter for this invitation. We are going to talk about the DNA. Later, we are going to review what is geology for us, just to have some points to define our common ideas about geology. Next, we'll be reviewing what is the DNA of a geologist in order to recognize how we can build a good profile for a geologist for this era, for these years in which we are facing so many different challenges for our career. And at the end, we will try to identify how we train a geologist, not only as an excellent technical professional, but also with some other skills that I think it would be very well received by our society. And finally, we can take a look of the challenges, but also of the opportunities that we have in this kind of topics. So, to start, we're going to talk about the DNA. And I know that this is I hope that you expect some different from this talk, but I think that talking about DNA and recognizing the importance of these elements will help us to develop an idea about the profile of a typical geologist and how we can develop some different skills about this. So as you know, as so many of you know, the DNA is a large number of attached atoms. These atoms, when we combine them, we can create the shape of a long spiral staircase. So at the beginning, DNA acts as a receipt, yes, to create something as complex as a living being. So we use amino acids as a chemicals within our bodies, known as the building blocks for lives. So they can connect like a layman and can produce a variety of larger particles that we call proteins. And one of the functions of this DNA is to tell to the amino acids how to align and how to organize themselves in a specific ways and to build proteins that really works. So what you are seeing on your screen is a simplified model of DNA, show how each rank of the ladder is made up. You can see different colors and different letters, and this each of them corresponds to a genetic sequence. So if we can build with each letter different sequences, genetic sequence to develop or to create different kind of structures. So the half of the letter allow us to read the chemical code, or that chemical sequence, and this then goes to the ribosome, which is in charge of building protein change with this genetic code. So at the end, we can build some creatures as complex as a living being, like my good friend Domingo that joined me 3 years ago. So this is just to let you know the complexity to build a human being or a living being, but also this complexity join us during our technical training at the university, at college. So this is what we are trying to review during this talk, and to identify that kind of topics that just made us as a technical good professionals, but also we are trying to look for another kind of skills that can help us to improve ourselves in order to develop a better profile that really try to solve social or problems that we have at this moment in different ways of our lives. So let's going to talk about the geology. I'm sorry, I know that you are students or maybe graduate students. This is not to give you a lesson about geology, just is to look for these very important points that build our science. So, as many of you know, geology studies the material that make up the earth and seeks to understand the different processes that take a part below and above the Earth's surface. No, so the main objective of geology is to understand the origin of the Earth and its evolution over the time. So, if we can understand the Earth, that the Earth is a challenging topic because the first one is that our planet is dynamic. Yes, so with many interacting parts and a long and complex history. And in the course of its long existence, the Earth has been changing. So we need to pay attention to different phenomena and structures and so many things. In fact, it is changing. Our Earth is changing while we are in this meeting, and will continue to do so for the future. So sometimes these changes are rapid and violent, like a volcanic eruption or a landslide. But often that changes take place so slowly that they are not appreciated for a lifetime. So the scales of size and space also vary greatly among the phenomena that geologists that as a geologist we study. So sometimes these must focus on submicroscopic phenomena. Yes, we need to develop some skills to identify some attributes from the microscopic world. But at other times, we must deal with continental or global scale features. So just with this definition, we can see the complexity of the process to understand the earth science. Okay, this is the first topic. And let's talk a little about how is the DNA of a typical geologist. I work with information from your own university. So I go inside the web page of your university and just look around the subjects that you have to take to develop your career. And I can find some basic subjects about mathematics, chemistry, physics, and some kind of that subjects. And of course, we can recognize the applied subjects. No, that's related with our career, like igneous petrology, like structural geology, sedimentology, geomorphology, etc. So I'm going to ask you to pay attention, especially to this triangle that will appear in the that appears in this case in the upper right corner, but will be appearing during our talk. And this triangle corresponds to the triangle of scientific communication. So we will see how it evolves as we advance in our professional training process, if we can call it like that. So this one is what the scientists use, as we will see, and it corresponds, if you can pay attention, to the scientific method. So This background phase is in which we understand the complexity of a topic. When we are at college, especially at undergraduate level, we try to understand the complexity of a topic in a general way. So we understand, we start here at the top of the triangle with a very big background about any topic. And then we can start to make interested in a particular area. So we will going to see how uh, our knowledge evolves and how this affects this triangle of communication. So this just to keep the example of a strong background that we built in at college. We have the advantage to spend 4 or 5 years at college, and this gives us a strong background in terms of the technical education that we receive at college. And later, you can recognize that the resource, the natural resource, represent another important focus of geology, which of course is of great practical value for the people. So these resources are water, are the soil, wide variety of metallic and non-metallic metals and minerals, and of course energy. So together they form the true foundation of our society, of our civilization. No, we can identify during the evolution of the civilization the importance of different resorts to make a better life civilization here. So geology addresses not only the formation and the existence of these vital resources, but also the maintenance of their stocks and the environmental impact of their extraction and use. So the rapid growth of the world's population and everyone's aspiration for a better way of life are complicating all the environmental issues, of course. So every year, the Earth's population increases by, I don't know, 100 million people, which means that an increasing demand for resource, of course, and an increasing pressure for people to inhabit environments with significant geological hazards. So at this point, we can recognize not only the importance of the resource, but also how we are taking advantage of some places with no knowledge about the geological hazards that we can find there. So we define our questions doing a lot of field work, of course. This is our natural place to develop our skills, and of course at the lab. And we feel comfortable, of course, doing a field work, doing being in a well, being in our office, doing seismic interpretation or log correlation or something like that. So at this point, as you see in the triangle, next that we define like a big topic of knowledge of interest, we start to develop some supporting details that give us the opportunity to start to focus in different areas of interest. And we go to the field or to the lab to try to collect the enough data to support, of course, our analysis. Okay. And at this point, we can't just visualize that the, pop, the population growth it's giving to the geologists a great opportunity to develop some different energetic resource at the beginning, but as we can see, they bring us a lot of challenges. about this, because the growth of population comes with some decisions that in so many cases are not taking the technical information in count, and we see so different kind of so sad situations in which live peoples are in risk, and anybody has a solution for that. So just as a summary of what we are talking at this point, we can see that the role of a geologist is extremely related with this technical strong background that we built at college. I took a look for the programs of the universities that offers geology as a career in our region, and I found that only the 7% of the Latin American universities have any of these subjects that you are reading on your screen. So we saw a lot of subjects about geology topics related, of course, but we didn't see a lot of topics about, for example, project management, geoethics, communication skills, etc. So this is the very beginning topic that we saw that has a strong effect and define us as a geologist, define us as a profession that take advantage of these technical skills, but that didn't recognize the importance of other skills that could be of really importance to do our job. So what we are going to see in this last part of the presentation is how we train a geologist, the typical ways that we can take to develop our career, and how we can take advantage of the challenges and the opportunities using different skills that can be of help to this strong technical background. Okay. So at the end, we get, I mean, we start with a big background of ideas. Okay, we try to define a question, a research question that we will try to answer. We try to collect some information, some data, etc., to get supporting details that give us the opportunity to focus uh, or to specialize in any topic. But at the end, we get a conclusion about our research, and that conclusion, in the most of cases, is tiny. Finally, we try to communicate that conclusion to anyone who wanna hear us, and that's the reason, because of many congress and geological meetings are famous. Okay, because scientists, as a scientist, we need an space, a place to share these conclusions. Okay, and in general terms, we identify a curricular level of training for us, with some paper review, with a lot of lab work, with a lot of field work, of course. But in the other hand, and this is especially comes from my experience working as a volunteer in different organizations, professional organizations, locally here in Colombia, but also with international organizations like AAPG. So that kind of work, that kind of volunteering can give you the opportunity to get some extracurricular training that give you the chance to learn some different skills that usually we don't get at the college. That skills could be like we call soft skills, like the skill to make a public lecture, to develop some skills to business or negotiation, and a lot of different other skills. So the way that we can take as a geologist depends of course of our interest, depends of course of our personal skills and what we are planning to do with our career. So as a geologist, we build some technical skills. We have the opportunity to develop that skills in what I see in three different ways or in three different places: industry, the academy, or the government. At the industry, we can recognize, of course, the oil and gas industry and the mining industry, in which you can develop some different technical skills, but still are technical. If you can you've reached some positions, then you will develop some other skills related to project managing or something like that. The second way that we can, in which we can develop our career, is of course the academy, in which, in the mostly of cases, we can develop a career as a researchers. Yes, doing research in different topics, not only related with the industry, but also related with some other things, especially technical or scientific topics. And the other way that we can take as a geologist is, of course, working with the government. And in that way, we can choose or we can solve two different ways, I think. The first one is the research way, of course, related with geological surveys, for example, or some technical institutes that we have at the government level. But on the other hand, we can take the way of the regulatory agencies that is a great and very challenging scenario for us. So in any way that we can develop this kind of work for us, we need to be aware that we need to develop that technical skills, we need to develop some soft skills, and we need to try to get or to rise or to wake some social and communicative skills, because our work has a strong influence in the people's life. Okay, not only in the way that we as a geologist have the opportunity to find the resources, energetic resources that we need for our lives, but also because in our hands are the exploration, for example, for groundwater, and also in our hands are the people's life when we talk about landing planning and managing of the risks. So definitely our work have a strong influence on people's lives, and we should to be aware of that kind of information. So this is just to share with you how was my way, especially being part of the AAPG. It's AAPG has been my home from 2008 when I started as a student member, and when we take the leadership of the student chapter at my university. And just to let you know, guys, that this is this this way that I took. It was easy for me because it was fun for me. I really enjoy doing these things, and of course, doing this job mark me as a leader to my future employer. So I start as a president of the student chapter. I spent 2 years in that role, working harder, developing some ideas, identify a gap in my school about the training that we receive, focusing on the exploration and production oil and gas industry. So we developed some different programs to train our students in that kind of topics. Later, I have the opportunity to be part of the team that found and create the Young Professional chapter in Colombia in 2012. At this moment, I uh, take a role as a education liaison, and we can develop some programs in terms of the development of leadership skills for not only for Colombian students. We develop at that moment the student chapter leadership summit. I'm proud of that program because that help us to train a lot of young leaders from our region, student chapter presidents, student chapter members, YP chapters presidents and members. So the present of the leadership of the young leadership in our region, I think that had the opportunity to participate in that kind of events. Later in 2015, I was invited to join a global committee that is called the Student Chapter Committee, and I took the role of the international vice chair. So at that moment, I had the opportunity to coordinate all the student chapters around the world, except the student chapters from United States. Okay, so I had the opportunity to share with people from Europe, from Africa, from Asia, from Latin America, of course, from Canada, um, and was an amazing experience for me. Of course, got me with a lot of work because at the beginning I need to connect with people or from the other parts of the regions in different times. So that was challenging. Talking with them, trying to understand their cultures, trying to uh, put off my glasses, of my cultural glasses, and to understand the difference in the cultures and the opportunity to build a strong network with the possibility to exchange with all of that cultural diversity and to improve our organization in a better way. It was a really good time there. I spent some time in different training programs at Houston and in Buenos Aires and in Lima, here in Bogota too. And I met a lot of people. I met a good friends and built a strong network, not only for me but also for our region and for our organization. It was a great time. And at the end, or at the end, no, right now, I'm I am part of the leadership team for our Latin American and Caribbean region. I'm acting as a education director. My responsibility is to develop some educational programs for geologists and students, of course, but also we are working harder to develop some programs focusing on non-scientific people, okay, focusing on the public. And in that way, we are trying to develop an Earth Science Week program to all of our region. We develop some contests to share Earth Science in different communicative formats. And we are trying to get the Earth Science in the people's life. I think that is really important for our not only for our career but also for the people's life. And finally, we are going to see some challenges and some opportunities that I think are very important to discuss in this space, and I hope that you find some points here in which you can say that you are ready to make a difference, to put your knowledge, your technical skills in order to service for a greater good. Okay. The first challenge that I recognize is that we need to be, how we can say this, exchange more time, more effective talks with the journalist, okay, because they have a huge impact on people's lives. You know that television, newspapers, internet, social media, etc., had an important influence on the people's life and also in their decisions. Okay, so it is really important to spend some time and develop some skills to strengthen our relationships with these professionals. In this slide, you can share an example from a news video here from Colombia, in which they present an explosion as a representative of seismic acquisition here. Look at this. So it is okay. He's a geologist trying to explain how we do the seismic acquisition, but in fact there is a really a problem here if the journalists use this kind of images and this kind of videos to let people know how we do these kind of things. We as a geologist or know that this is not the correct video to show that, but people doesn't know that, and people just get this information and start to create an idea in their minds about this. And if you ask if you allow to make some seismic acquisition in your territory and you have this kind of ideas, the normal behavior that we expect is that you refuse to be part or to allow these kind of projects on your territory. So this is one challenge that as a geologist we need to face. Okay. The second challenge that I saw is about land and territorial managing and ordering. Okay. Not only the geological process have an impact on people, we as humans can significantly, I know, I mean, we have a significantly influence in the geological processes as well. For example, you know that the river floods are natural, no? But human activities and human developments, such as clearing forests, building cities, building reservoirs, can change their magnitude and their frequency. Okay, so it is not only that the nature can have an impact on people's lives. Okay, our activities has an strong influence on the earth natural processes. Unfortunately, as we know, natural systems do not always adjust to these changes in ways that we can foresee. So this does an alteration in the environment that was expected to be beneficial to the society often has the opposite effect. Okay, in the way that if we can take in mind these geological phenomena and how these phenomena interact in the environment. So we can just put a city in a very risky place. Okay. And at the end, the third challenge that I found on this, especially for us as a geologist, is the recognition of historical conflicts that people faces for so many years, especially related with oil and gas industry and the mining industry. We are now seeing the reaction of the people about the hydraulic fracturing activities. We now see a lot of people from different communities near to development fields, just making some opposition to the projects because they have fears about the impact that the industry can have with the environment and with their social behavior. So we need to face and we need to recognize these kind of conflicts, and we need to take the time to talk about it, to try to solve these concerns, these questions that people have, and try to move on into better relationship ways with the local communities especially. But also we need to train communities to be a better and informed actor when they need to talk with industry and when they need to talk with government and take or make decisions about if they are agree or not with some development projects about that. Okay. So the point here is the way that the public use to communicate. Okay, the way that the public use to communicate is the opposite from the science use. This is the same triangle that we saw in the last slides, but in this occasion we are focusing on the public. Okay, so the way that the public think about any information is different from the science. They start on the sharp here, on the sharp of the triangle, and the first question they ask is, what does this have to do with me, or why this is relevant to my work? And if we cannot answer that question, it ends there. Okay, we will not get anything else because they are turned off, they lost their interest. But if we can connect with their work, if we can draw them into more detail and potentially come up with very complex things that interest them, then we can build a relationship with them. Okay, we can use elements from the day-to-day life of the people to describe the importance of scientific matters like geology on the people's lives. So at this point, what I'm not saying is that one of the right or the left triangle is wrong or is right. The only thing that I sharing with you is that there are two different ways to communicate, and there are two different ways to understand the information. Okay, and as a geologist and as a scientific people, we need to relearn and retrain ourselves in a different way to communicate our knowledge with the public. The one of the right triangle is the language of the science, and we need to learn it, of course, because it's what we do in science. Okay, it's what we need to do in conference or in lectures, for example. It is just that if you're trying to do the same thing with the public, you won't get anywhere. Okay, so you need to improve different skills and different ways to communicate with the public. Okay, and at the end, you know that science needs more than just doing a research that could produce progress. Science needs of a permanent integration and coexistence with politics and with economy to improve the basic living condition of the population. And we can talk about the public, and I want to you understand that I referring to any people on the earth, to any people from the society. And let's just let me give you an example. In my mind, politicians, policymakers, businessmen are the public in the sense that they get their information and their signs from the same general sources that most of the people out of the street usually uses: television, newspapers, friends, and others. Okay, only a few of them get it from scientific advisors, at least in that way works here in Colombia. Okay, so if you can learn to speak to the public, then you can learn to speak to anyone, and you will see the impacts and the influence that they have in your knowledge and in the development programs. Okay, so where are the opportunities? The first place in which you will find the opportunities, of course, are at college. There in the Universidade de São Paulo or any college or university in our world, you are taking the opportunity, but also the responsibility to develop your profile, your technical and professional profile. Okay, but also you have the opportunity to develop other skills if you take advantage of the scenarios that share with you the different professional organizations that already exist in our lives. For example, AAPG, for example, the Brazilian Geological of the Brazilian Association of Petroleum Geologists, the local societies in general, some programs to volunteer as like Earth Science Week, and different kind of programs or organizations in which you can develop leadership skills, project management skills, communicative skills, of course. So this is the first opportunity that I suggest to you to take advantage of it. Okay, I suggest to you to spend some time from your free time doing some volunteer work with any of these associations, because in that way you can find new friends to build your network, and your network will provide you with not only academic opportunities but also with professional opportunities on the industry or in other places. So take advantage of that. It's important, it's easy, and you can take part in different ways. If you are good with social media, then you can work as a volunteer, as a community manager, for example. But if you are good talking with people, developing business or something like that, then you can support your student chapter with your skills to negotiate with companies for sponsorship or something like that. So there are a lot of opportunities there. So at the end, the message that I want to share with you is that the public, the non scientific people, uh, think about the surface, the subsurface that we study differently from us, okay? And we need to recognize the way they expect that we share and talk this information with them, okay? What you are seeing on the screen are just some examples from people that we had the opportunity to work here in Colombia, doing some programs about science communication, and we try to understand how they think about the subsurface, and we found these kind of elements. Okay, so at the beginning we need to recognize these elements and try to use them and use the day-to-day elements that they are usually used to develop our knowledge with them and to share our knowledge with them, and trying to share with them the importance of this knowledge, because it is not only to share how is the subsurface elements and processes and wherever. It is the most important part to share with them why that kind of information affects their lives, and it is important for them to know that. Okay, so how does the public make decisions? When information is complex, people make decisions about their values and beliefs. It is important to keep that in mind. Mostly of the times, people seek reaffirmation of their attitudes or their beliefs, and reject any information or evidence that is against them. Okay, so we can't approach the people trying to impose with them our knowledge. Okay, we need to build common knowledge with them. Okay, people usually trust more in those who share their same values. That's the reason, because the people from the region that had the opportunity to study geology, it is important that they come back to the region and share their knowledge, because they have some legitimacy with the local people. Okay, and public concerns about questionable science or technology are almost never about science. So scientific information has very little influence on these aspects. We need to introduce our knowledge in the people lives and identify how to know the faults that are in our region, or the results that are in our region have an influence on the people lives. Okay. And finally, I realized that my science, geology, was going to be useless unless I try hard to pass it on to the unscientific public. I start working on science communication initially with the Colombia Geological Survey, where I had the opportunity of design science programs for school audiences, and we start with the Earth Science program with some public schools here in Bogota, but in all cities with the schools of geology who want to participate. And now I'm here as a geologist working as an executive, but also designing educational and communicative programs, working in multidisciplinary teams, especially with teachers, especially with communicators and that kind of professionals. And my advice, guys, is that you invest some time during your career to find what really drives you, what is your passion, and that work that you really enjoy. It's in the way that you need to follow your career and never stop until to get it. Okay. So we develop here in Colombia a campaign to let people know the importance of a geologist in each city in our territory. So I just wanna share with you some ideas, some suggestions from different kind of people about the importance of a geologist in the people's lives. It's in Spanish, but or each video has subtitles in English, so you can read it. Okay. Okay, that was an opinion from a teacher here in Colombia. That was an opinion from an engineer. That was an opinion from a member of the of a community of indigenous here in Colombia. Okay, and finally, here's the opinion of a teacher from Universidad Nacional here in Colombia. So at the end, the message from these guys is that there are different needs that people have in their territories, in their regions, and we as a geologist have a lot of information, a lot of skills to work with the people, and improve their needs and just support them and make their lives better in the regions. So finally, and not less important, I just want to share with you some ground rules that I use in my life, and I think these kind of ideas could help you to improve your career. The first one is that you can only change what you are involved in. If you don't participate, then you can complain. This is an important rule. I think that it's fundamental, guys, that if we can make a difference in our region, in our lives, we need to start to be active in the decisions and in the way that we do our job. Okay. The second one is that you can only control what you do. If you want that others change, you must lead by example. It's important. If you want that people follow you, if you believe that you are in the way of the change for the society, if you got an idea, then you must to lead by an example, being an example for others. And at the end, and I think that it is a extreme with the second, is that do not concern yourself with the attitudes of others. If others don't follow your example, just move on. You have a lot of things to do. Don't expect that and don't spend energy and time if people don't want to follow you. Okay, so I think this is the last one. Thank you very much for being here, for listening this lecture, and I hope to answer just questions or comments that you have at this point. Thank you very much, guys.
Very nice your presentation, Flover. It was uh, really nice to see this other point of view, other than just technical talk or some scientific talk. It's more like about soft skills and communication and what a professional association can help you with that. And we're here open for questions if anyone want to answer anything. Podem perguntar, pessoal, aí nos comentários que eu tô vendo. Eu faço a pergunta para ele. Stephanie San Martin said that she recognized Professor Lucho, I think, in one of the videos
Okay.
you showed.
Yes. From the National University. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Nice. Well, I have some questions about what do you do. I know we talked about a little earlier before the streaming, but you could talk about a little more what you do as a executive director of ACGGP and your routine. You said you go to the field sometimes and create a geological mapping, and how do you show that to the public?
Okay. Here at the ACGGP, we are working hard to develop some different programs to communicate designs, not only related with the oil and gas industry, because you know that in our name are petroleum, so usually people think that we only develop programs in that way. But we think that we have a very good opportunity to share the big picture of earth science. So now we are working in two ways. The first one is working with students from schools and also from universities in different cities in our country. At the beginning of the year, we had the opportunity to share with more than 2,000 people, but due to COVID-19, of course, we need to merge for to the virtual space. But we learned a lot of this. We are now sharing some programs, educative programs, not only for students right now. We are also preparing programs for geologists to train them in some skills about how to communicate with urban people or rural people, or how to communicate with policymakers, or I mean different kind of public. And also we are working with some companies to develop programs to share science with the communities around the different projects about oil and gas industry. So we had the opportunity to visit them at the regions, and now we are developing some virtual programs to get into the community with the knowledge about seismic acquisition, how we can find water in their land or something like that. So, and of course, we are working in the way to develop the skills, the technical skills of the geologists or geophysicists.
We have a question here from Raul Santana. Raul said,
Okay.
Thanks for your lecture, Flover. It's very important for us geologists to be able to communicate with general people in society. Flover, what potential topics beyond paleontology and natural resources we could communicate to general people in society?
Any topic, any topic. I know that paleontology it's a potential topic because it's the perfect way to get the attention of especially young people, kids, but and of course the geological risks are very important because we're talking in that term of people's life. Okay, we can save lives if we can share our knowledge with people and help them to recognize or to identify some phenomena that occurs in their land. But I mean, we can use any of the topics related with earth science and just try to capture the attention of the people. We can use, for example, the planetary examples. Yes, we have a lot of geologists working in the geology of Mars, in the geology of the moon, and that kind of topics really get the attention of the public. But it is not related with the topic, indeed. It is related in the way or in the format that we use to communicate with them. Okay, so we need to pay attention and to really spend some time to defining the better strategy to share that knowledge. Okay, we can talk about anything. The key point is that we develop a good strategy of communication. Okay, we need to understand how the people get this information. We cannot talk with people about, I don't know, mountains if we are in a plain territory. Okay, we not talk with people about volcanoes if they don't have a near volcano there. So we need to use the elements that the people has in their territory. Okay, and with those elements, develop the strategy to share their knowledge. Okay, so at the end, it's not about the topic; it's about the strategy that we use. Okay.
Sure. That really answers the question. And Stephanie San Martin have a question too. Which kind of advice you have for us as a group who is very disconnected from the oil companies that may help us to fund some social projects, understanding that everything runs in Rio de Janeiro because USP is from São Paulo and the
Oil and
target
gas
for
industry
is
focusing
all
in Rio.
in Rio. Yeah.
Okay, Stephanie, glad to see you here. And I think right now, at this point, the limits are in our minds. COVID-19 showed us that the communication using these tools, it's in our hands. So it is. I understand your point about that you're not have a company in your own city, but now we have these kind of tools to use and to connect with them. Okay, and not only in Brazil. This situation show us that we can connect with all over the world. Okay, so the point here is that you took the leadership to make the connections, to build your network, and to invite a lot of people from industry to visit your student chapter in this way, especially. Later, I hope to have the opportunity to be there with you and to share with you in person. But at this moment, we don't have limits. Okay. Here in Colombia, we develop a program that we call Geoscience in Quarantine. Okay. And we spend 106 days doing lectures from people from Colombia at the beginning, but later people from Argentina, Ecuador, Mexico, Peru, wherever, join us and share with us. And this expands to all of the Latin American, Caribbean region and other regions because people from Europe and people from Asia join us. So I think that at this moment we don't have limits. It is only to find the people, to identify who will be your next guest as me, and just write a letter, an email, and let them know that you wanna share with them in these kind of scenarios. But later, and that was the first part, okay, and that will help you to develop a network to strengthen your own student chapter. Later, you can develop some other kind of programs for yourself. So I think that right now we don't have limits.
Really good answer, Flower. We have a last one here from Giovanni Nova. He says, which advice can you give us to involve oil and energy industry with student chapters, which is your experience with Colombia Industries and the student chapter there? So I think he's
Sí.
asking.
Viejo Giovanni, me alegra saludarlo. Just glad to see you. Giovanni is a friend from here. Okay, I I think that the advice is the same that I just give you, but you need to develop some programs. Okay, I think that is a good way to show your student chapter, especially abroad, because that will help you to find support, of course, but also you can take advantage of the different programs that especially APG has to student chapters, just to let the region recognize you. Okay, so you have the visiting geoscientist program, Okay, I'm part of that program, and here as a visiting geoscientist. Okay, but you can take advantage of a huge members network of members that can give you a talk. That's a first part. Okay, the scenario to exchange knowledge and technical ideas. Okay, the other one I think is to take advantage, for example, of the Imperial Battle Award program. That could be a good scenario, because the IBA gives you the opportunity to have the experience, a real life experience of how the oil and gas industry works. Okay, they give you a data set from, I don't know, some seismic lines, some wells, whatever, and you will have 6 weeks to develop your idea and to present this to really managers from the oil and gas industry. Okay, and they will be a strong background for you. And in the other hand, you need to be very active sharing with your peers, with other student chapters. There in Brazil, you have very good examples of student chapters that are doing an excellent work. Okay, the two prizes, the two recognitions in this year was to Brazilian student chapters. Okay, so you have a good examples there. And finally, and I especially recommend that the leadership programs. Okay, we have the student chapter leadership program. This is a program to develop your skills on leadership and gives you the opportunity to share with leaders, not only from AAPG, but also from the industry and the government and the academy. So my advice is that you take advantage of these kind of programs. Are free for students. So you only need to spend some time and be part of that experience. Okay.
Really nice, Flover. And Stephanie said, muchas gracias. You are right. We must stop being shy. And it was an honor to present part of my research in the Cuarentena con Geociencias.
Yes. Thank you very much for being part of Cuarentena con Geociencias, Stephanie.
So I have, if you wanted to say some last words for us, or then we can end the transmission, the streaming, and
Okay,
we'll be.
Thank you very much, Felipe, for give me this opportunity to share with you and to share with your student chapter. Congratulations to you and the leadership team for taking this opportunity and develop the idea to have the first student chapter of AAPG at your university. And please take advantage of these kind of opportunities. Please let me know if I can share with you any other information. Let me know if I can be of help with you. I have to recognize that APG had a strong influence in my career. I had the opportunity to develop some skills that I never think that could be so important for my career. Now I think I'm most in the side of the managing, but it is okay. Okay, the geologists also had the skills and the abilities to develop our career in this side. So don't be afraid to take that way. Thank you very much for being here.
Okay, thank you very much, Flover. In the name of all the team of AAPG Student Chapter USP. And until next time, we're maybe you can be present in our university physically and have other events, and you can meet you in other events, maybe some congress. Okay, and thank you very much.
I'd be glad to be there. Thank you very much.